Hello everyone, this is Jimmy Coldest with part 3 of our turn-based combat series. Today we're going to be covering selecting actions. So just stamp out a handy-dandy microchip and we're going to label it Action. Open it up. First thing you're going to want is a counter. Another microchip. Make it a wonderful little controller just so you keep things straight in your head. We're going to label it Select Action, or I should say we're going to name it Select Action, and we're going to connect this to the power. Next, we're going to set this little baby down here. Open up the microchip. Stamp out a node, or at least maybe we don't have to waste our time. We already have our needed implement right here. Which is basically just a microchip with inputs, or nodes, I should say, for the D-pad up and down. We're going to go ahead and connect those outputs to their proper ports. Next, we're going to stamp out this little node here. We're going to label it Circle for easy frame of reference. And we're going to go back here to Character Select and copy out the X input from earlier. If you want to copy things, just use R1, not R1, L1 and R2 to copy things, in case you wonder where. Now that that's done, we're going to connect the proper outputs from the controller. Center, X to X, circle to circle. Alright, so now that that's done, we're going to go back to this little chip right here, set it to play once. It's a timeline, not a chip, but you get my drift. Put a keyframe on it, select these, and turn off the power. Select this separately and turn off the power. I want to explain something real quick, that Dreams has a distinction between chips and nodes. So if you select all of these and try to turn them all off, it will only turn off the ones you have selected of a certain type. So consider these apples. Nodes are apples, and chips, microchips, are oranges. You can't turn off oranges when you're turning off apples, so just be sure you remember that. Dreams does that with a lot of things. Groups are a good example. Something that isn't in a group won't be affected when you select it versus something that is if you're trying to turn off the power. It considers them separate objects. But anyway, now that that's over with, take the counter, set its full output to this little thing here, and basically what the timeline is going to do is create an input delay which keeps you from skipping through menus too fast. It's like a domino effect. When you press X on one menu, because you have X hooked up to the next one, you're just going to be pressing X all the way to the end of the selection, which is not what you want in a video game, so you need input delay. Anyhow, let's go back here, open up Character Select, take the X option and connect it like so to the counter. Take out a selector. Open this up. Move to previous output. And move to next output. Cross these wires. You want up in the lower arrow and down in the upper arrow. Always cross these wires. Alright. Next we're going to work on the menu. So we might as well go back, and for a quick, easy selection, actually this is the wrong place, we want to go to the backdrop. We also want to correct this little spelling error. Wouldn't want to make a bad example for the kiddies. Copy this out. Take it over here. This is basically going to be our select action menu. Let's press play so we can see where it's at. And I'm going to make it slightly darker just to make it stick out more. We're going to pad the sides. The border width is going to be slightly larger. And we'll set the sort order to 6 so that it appears... No, we'll set it to 5 so that it appears above the previous menu. The sort order guarantees that no matter, you know, where you put something, it'll be given priority layer-wise. So that's done. We're just going to slip that up there. We're going to take 3 nodes, connect these outputs, add 1, move them forward just a bit. Now that that's done, we might as well go and copy our homework from earlier. We're going to take these arrows and the name to use in our next action menu. Now what you're going to want to do is, remember that when you're copying something affected by a keyframe, if you don't want it to still be affected by that keyframe, you're going to want to press X and L1 to edit the keyframe, and just press triangle and it will turn off whatever effects you have active. Now we're going to move those up here. We're going to use this and relabel it attack. And of course, we need to change the sort order. So, move it up to 6. Make it nice and big so it stands out. We're going to take this little arrow. As before, the sort order is going to be 6. That looks about right. I'm going to copy this for our next selectable action, which will be magic. In some RPGs, they have a ton of options like defense and various other things. Depends on the complexity of your game. But for this, I just have magic and action and item. Once you get the hang of things, you'll probably be able to do all sorts of marvelous RPG mechanics. Alright, I'm gonna move item down. I don't know why, but I like item to be slightly lower with a wider gap in between. I don't know if I actually have seen that in any RPG before, but it's just something I like doing. It strangely just appeals to my sensibilities. I don't know why. Alright, nice and neat and tidy. Okay, that's all over with. Move these. Take out a keyframe. Basically all we're going to do is turn up the whiteness on these. That's all that's necessary. That's just for selecting, of course. Next, we're gonna take one of these nodes. Actually, might as well take all three. We're gonna need them. Connect the output to each of them. Make them blue, just make them stand out. We're gonna label this first one attack. And we're gonna label this second one magic. And the third, of course, is going to be item. Now what these are going to do is later these are going to allow you to select the different actions, but with one input. Turn off the power to all of them. And we're just going to turn on each one individually with these keyframes, so that when the proper action is selected, one of these will work at any given time. So if you're selecting item, this keyframe will be opening that port, and so, you know, so on, etc. And we're going to take the circle output and connect it to this little doohickey here. Let's move these down a tad. Stamp out this keyframe. I'm going to explain real quick what this does. But basically, when you're selecting actions, you don't want to be able to move these around. You don't want to, you know, deselect your character while you're selecting actions. So basically, we're going to turn this off. Well, actually, don't turn that off. Just turn these off so that you can't change the input. Specifically those. We're going to make it blue. And we're also going to turn the power on so that when this chip is active, it will automatically be on, and, you know, you don't have to worry about anything, how to provide it with power, because it'll just have power instantly. Okay, now that that's done, let's get on to some other information. There we go. This is going to be our attack option. We're going to be copying a few things from the previous chip. Copy this. These are pretty much all important. And that too. Well, this is not necessary. And due to Media Molecule's recent updates, if if we want to disconnect what this keyframe previously was turning off, it's a lot easier. Actually, though, we may want to leave those wires active. The only difference is we're going to turn these off as well. That way, once you select an action, what you do here won't affect the action you selected. And we're going to copy this out. Connect it to the power. And of course, we're going to repeat this whole process of connecting these various wires. We're also going to turn off depossession. Since this is wireless, that wouldn't really matter anyway. Okay, now if you're wondering why I'm using separate inputs as opposed to just using the X input from earlier, why am I reconnecting separate wires that are basically going to do the same thing? That's because sometimes you want to shut off individual sections of the logic. It may run up the thermo in terms of wires, but it's just less hassle-free in the long run, shall we say. Now we're going to go out here real quick. Gonna stamp out a trigger zone. We're gonna set it to tag and set it to detect reset menu. Set it to scene, which means the entire scene is the trigger zone. No chance of it falling outside the boundaries. Just take a little node and a timeline, which we're going to set to play once. Make it yellow and distinctive. Reset menu is what we're going to call it. Open it up. I'm going to put out 2 switches. One thinner and one larger. Gonna label this one Reset Turn. Now this is gonna be important later when I do a video about characters taking turns and basically no longer being able to select them after they've been, after their turn is up. But for now we're just gonna keep pinning that, let that sit right there. This is more important. We're going to label it Reset Power. Going to make it yellow. Basically what we're going to do with this is reset all of these options. To do that, you're going to want to connect it to the power nodes of these. And I'll explain why in a bit. You're also going to want to connect it to the reset option on these counters. Don't get too confused by the wires. Basically though, once you turn these off, these will no longer have power. And you end up with a paradox where if they no longer have power and you want to reset the selector, you're in a bit of a bind because you can no longer do that. So basically, when you turn on power again, it will be on the option it was originally selected before, which isn't something video games do. They tend to reset the whole menu. But basically, by connecting this to the power, you're powering it on just briefly enough to reset to the basic standard option. Which is A in this case. Hopefully that's not too confusing. Alright, finally have done it. Now in the next video, I hope to get into how we're going to program the attack selection and attack animations. But until then, I think that we're pretty much done. Let's just give it a little test to make sure it works properly. Something's not active. These are turned off. So, what could be wrong? Oh, I know what it is. This is what is wrong. I made a mistake with this counter. This node should run to this counter, and no other input should be going in there except that one. There we go. Now we can select an action of any sort. In the next video, I'm going to cover how to select attack, and maybe we'll program some attack animations and such. In the meantime, this is all the information I have to offer on the subject. Hopefully this video was illuminating. We're starting to get into the thicker, more heavy logic, and it's going to get a bit confusing, but I'll try to walk you through as best I can. It confuses even me, so just let that sink in. This creation will be remixable after this video comes out, so if you want to mess around or use it in any way you see fit, feel free to do so. Check the description for information on how to find it in Dreams. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. And if you want to support us, check the links in the description to our art pal and our coffee. You can also follow me on Twitter if you like Dreams content and unique and entertaining takes. In the meantime, goodbye.